Hey, this is a special episode of Guitar Tips Pro. I've got a guest here. This is Molly Miller. She's the chair of the guitar department at Los Angeles College of Music and a great guitar player and one of my favorite band leaders in Los Angeles. And I wanted to talk with her about leading a trio. It's a thing that a lot of guitar players do. It's a nice format, guitar, bass, and drums. But it also leaves a lot of questions. I have people ask me, and maybe you do too, like, I want to lead a trio, but I have this question and that question. And one of the biggest areas that seem to be mysterious is arranging. How do you set the music? It's not just like, well, I'll just play the melody and see what happens, but really having a concept for what you want your group to sound like and how you want the guitar to be, you know, the lead voice in that. So I wanted to bring in Molly to talk about it because she does it really excellently, and maybe maybe I'll include a link or two to some of her videos so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So I wanted to ask you, like, how did you get into like making arranging a priority?
Yeah. So I was fortunate. I was like out in LA gigging, just doing casuals, and so what happens on those gigs is typically people will be like, "Oh, what song do you want to play?" And you know, eventually you get to a song, and maybe you'll be like, take the last 8 bars, and we'll be on the melody, or just right on the melody. It's always felt like it was the same melody, solos, and even the solo order is always the same. It would be horns, guitar, or guitar, bass, and then trading fourths with the drums, maybe.
Right.
Melody out, tag, and then sort of like an awkward ending that you stumble upon. And I would get frustrated. I'd want to, like, you know, either play a song different and also not play all the songs the same, you know. So that
You mean like within your own set, not have just like the sameness?
Yeah, so every song didn't feel like it was the same, and also because that's like one of my favorite things when I'm listening to music too, is like I get hooked on something. Maybe it's like the intro so cool and it sets it up so beautifully, or there's a shout chorus that I love that I sing along to. So that's a lot of the times like the exciting part of songs for me is listening to the arrangement. So that was a part of the inspiration. And also, while I was studying at USC, I took Frank Potenzo's trio class. And so every week I was bringing in a new chart, and I was encouraged and had the opportunity there to kind of develop arrangements. And I'd have to bring in a chart each week, so it wouldn't just be that same experience of, what do you want to play? It'd be like, oh no, we're going to play this, and here's a chart.
So not just bring in like a photocopied page out of the real book, but like bring in a chart that has a clear form from beginning to end.
Totally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'd go in on Sibelius each week and have to think about like what song I was going to play, how I was going to play it, and how I was going to make it my own. And so like other people in town, like Bruce Foreman, for example, he has a band Cowbop, and every single song is arranged, like really fully arranged.
Oh, wow.
So I was studying with him while I was at USC too. So it's like, I feel like while I was at USC, I was gigging, and then I had these opportunities at school to like actually make arrangements. So then when I left school, I had I was lucky enough to have gigs where I was actually band leading and had the opportunity to bring in charts and say, we're going to play this song and this is how we're going to play it. It's not just going to be a fun mystery. Well, I still love doing that sometimes.
Right. So what's the process? Like, what did you learn with Frank and Bruce, and then what have you figured out on your own?
Yeah. Okay, so I think for me, the hardest part, I think, is actually finding the song. You know, because there's so many great songs, and I don't know if you ever have this experience where you hear a song and you love it and you want to play it, and then you start playing it, and you realize maybe someone else should do it.
Right, totally.
And like once you invest time into a song, you want to play it. So finding a song is hard for me, but once I find a song, I like to listen to it in so many different ways. So hearing a bunch of different versions of the song, because everyone has their own take. So once I find a song, for example, I just did an arrangement of Mood Indigo. And I always know like Duke Ellington's version.
That's what I think of.
But I was listening to Nina Simone, and she had this like fiery version that had vocals too, and also knowing the sentiment of the song can be really helpful. So I think knowing the lyrics is so important when you're doing arrangements.
Okay.
You ain't never been blue till you had this mood indigo, and it's just like fiery and emotional, and just the way she played it resonated with me so much. So then I listened to a bunch of different versions, and hers for me is the one that, even though it always feels weird because Duke Ellington is the composer, but Nina Simone's version actually makes more sense to me how it's played. So then I took that song and made my own arrangement. So I started there. I learned the song. I listened to a bunch of different versions, and people have some different changes too. So choosing the actual chords is the next process, like learning the song. And I always try to play the melody and the chords in different places and in different keys, because that will always open up new doors. And thinking of numbers, so for example, the first chord's B flat major, and the second chord's C7. And attaching, this is a huge one, attaching the melody to numbers for me and chords. So that melody right there, I'm thinking 3 into the 3 of B flat. So I'm thinking numbers and attaching the actual melody to the chord. And here we're on the second chord, which is the 2, C7. So thinking in that way really helps me learn a song. So it's not just melody and harmony, but they're actually one. Because the melody informs the harmony, and the harmony informs the melody.
Right. Okay.
So, learning it, playing it all over the guitar, and thinking in numbers. That's definitely like a huge part of it.
So thinking of the melody in numbers, and thinking of the chords in Roman numerals.
Yes, yeah. I think numbers makes everything, and even though sometimes it can get confusing, because here's the melody, and that D, let's say we're in B flat, is the third of B flat, but for me, I think of whatever chord we're on. It's the 2 of C, because that's how I'm voicing it too. And we can kind of get into that too. But it's kind of this funny combination of, we're not playing solo guitar, and there's going to be a bass player, so you don't want to play all the bass notes, but you want to also give some harmony in your chords. Not always, but a lot of the time. So that's why when I'm learning it, I want the harmony to be there as well. So I'm thinking. Now we're on the second chord, which happens to be the 2, and we happen to be playing the 9 of the 2 chord.
Okay, yeah,
if we can.
Sense. Sure. Yeah, totally.
So that's how I'm thinking.
Okay.
So I learned the melody, and I learn it with the chords attached. And I can do another example too, if that's helpful.
Yeah,
definitely. Dream a Little Dream of Me. That's another song. That's a trio song I play. So instead of just going, I think chords. And that's, G major to E flat 7, D7.
Okay.
And the other you can play the melody and the chords together or separately, like I did there. There they are together, or
So there's more staggered.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And experimenting in that world too, of not always playing the melody the same way. So that is a side note, but every A shouldn't be treated the same. And it's hard when you're learning a melody, because I think you tend to learn it one way and that's how you play it.
Right.
But thinking about how a vocalist would approach it too.
Right.
A vocalist wouldn't sing a melody the same way every single time.
Right.
I mean, you want to hit the melody note, but maybe she'd phrase it slightly differently, or bend into a note, or make one quieter, make an A bigger. So all these things that you can do with your instrument.
Right. And we don't have words, so we can't tell the story, like you were mentioning, like the importance of words. So in the absence of words, we have to find some more variety in the way we present the melody.
Totally, and maybe that's playing it in a different octave too.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So now we've learned the song. So we chose a song. We've learned a song.
Okay.
And now I think it's the next part is making sense of the song for you, which is, and part of that is, I think, knowing the lyrics. What does it mean? What's the thing that you want to express? So a lot of the times, choosing a feel and a tempo is a process. So I just like to play the song in a few different feels, and normally I get hooked on like a vamp or a vibe, and I can. So I'll go back to Mood Indigo. So I like heard this kind of like angry, not fiery is the word I keep using right now, but
Whoa, that's how you start out. Wow, I would not expect Mood Indigo. Wow.
yeah, and it's just like.
Whoa. I didn't mean to cut you
No.
off. That's so rad.
Yeah, so I just made an arrangement recently for my trio, and I don't know why it's like not, and Jay doesn't even play it. So my trio is Jennifer Condos and Jay Bellerose, two amazing musicians. And that's the other fun process is bringing the arrangement to the band, which I'll get there in a second because I want to talk about how we came up with the groove.
Okay.
But yeah, because it was kind of, I just wanted it, I just like felt it, not slow and sweet. The song is like, I'm upset. Like, you've never experienced this Mood Indigo. I'm so sad. I'm heartbroken. I fail things. So I wanted to express that. And somehow I just ended up there after learning the song. So it wasn't like, and that's kind of the fun creative process too, is like finding the groove. And I always try to make it match the sentiment. Which is, and like it takes me a long time to come up with an arrangement on some songs because I'll try a few things, and whenever it takes me a minute sometimes to find the right feel. And sometimes it's like stealing from other people, and maybe it's not even stealing like this groove from Mood Indigo, but maybe it's like a totally different song. And I was like, I like that groove. I wonder what it would sound like on Mood Indigo.
Oh, wow.
Or, oh, I kind of like that. Let's make it my own. So I think stealing's okay.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and it doesn't have to be thought of as stealing, but, being inspired by.
Right.
And because that happens too. So I've made sense of the song. We've learned the song. We chose the song, and that's in reverse order. What does the song mean to you? And that's the lyrics. Now the actual arrangement part.
Okay.
So this is the part where like I was kind of saying in the beginning, where I was getting frustrated on gigs that, it was like you just play the song. There weren't necessarily like dynamics would happen maybe if you were like happy to be on a gig with good listeners, but things like hits, like, maybe drum hits or certain instruments dropping out, because there's so much you can do. You're 3 people, but you're a lot. There's different textures. Every single person, all 3 instruments, has an orchestra within it, whether that be octaves or different timbres or different sounds and volumes. So all of us using those, our instruments, to, different textures and such, I can, there I'm muting. Or maybe it's sweet. Or maybe it's percussive, or big chords, small chords, dissonant sounds. So there's so much you can do within just your instrument. So we have all those options, but then also with the arrangement, which you can bring in. Of course, you can express. You can tell the band like, oh, play it this way, like small voicings, big voicings, whatnot. But then hits, shout choruses, solis.
Okay, explain those, because not everybody maybe knows what a shout chorus or a solo is.
Yeah, so like shout so if you think of like big bands playing like these melodies all together, like da 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 blah blah da 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 da, or whatever it is, things like that. So you can do that with just a trio. Or you can do like a cool counterpoint thing. It's like, there's a bass player and a guitar player there. So maybe you have some like lines that work together that you can arrange.
I see, yeah, right.
Kind of more like of a classical sound. Or maybe, and like having certain instruments drop out too, I think is a good technique. A lot of times when the bassist is soloing, I drop out. They've heard enough guitar. Or sometimes I have just me and the drummer play, which is because then there's a lot of different sort of freedom that happens in that moment. Because I can play whatever I want. There's no one dictating the harmony but me.
Right.
And then when the bass comes in, it's like, oh, there's the bottom.
Right.
So I think what you always want is just like to hear things happening. So I've talked to, what else? Oh,
hear things. Yeah,
sorry.
So I'm just making mental note. Hear things happening. That's just so simple, but that's so on the money.
Yeah, you want a variation.
Right.
I think like, when do people listen? When things get quiet? When something changes? Like just playing loud the whole time, like everyone's going to tune out.
Right.
Textures, I've talked, counterpoint, vamps. like you can just vamp on a chord or vamp on a groove and use that. Or because I was going to say also like send-offs, like solo send-offs. You know, so if you're like hanging out on one chord before going into maybe changes, that's another thing you can do.
Oh, okay. Like Fried Pies kind of sort of does that.
Okay.
You know that?
I don't know.
It's a West tune on Boss guitar. It's basically a blues, but at the start of each solo, there's like 16 bars of just like boom, boom.
Yeah.
It just hangs out. That's called a send-off?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, because I like it. It's just, I think it's another cool way to like, you know, I think when everyone thinks of their solo, it's like this big epic moment where it's just like climaxes. So sometimes after that, it's like a moment just to sizzle and hang out. That could be a nice, you know, technique as well. Motifs, you know, I think you can use that, like callbacks. Like maybe there's a little line that you use at the beginning that you can use again. Like just like to have something that ties the arrangement together. Maybe that's bookends. If you have like, if you start a song, like I'll use this again. Let's say maybe you go back to that at the end. And that's like a bookend.
Okay.
Which is another way to tie a song from the beginning to the end together. Are there any of these? I'm going through a lot. I get excited because there's so many options. But drum hits for me is another one that I love to hear, where it's not just like an open drum solo, because sometimes that's awesome. Like give a drummer an open drum solo, but like if there's something the bass player and the guitar player can be doing together to support the drummer, so he has something to work with. I like to do that. I do that in the trio a bunch.
Is there a tune? Maybe I can include a link to.
Yeah.
Is there a tune of yours or an arrangement of yours that has hits? That
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what's out, because we have like I'm an Old Cowhand has hits, but I have to send you a link. I'm trying to think of what we have on the internet that has hits, and we don't have enough. But I don't know if we have anything that has hits. I have to think of our videos. I don't think we have anything out there.
Okay.
But like, we have them. I can see if I can find something and send it to you.
Okay. Cool.
Because we just recorded our last show, and I think maybe I can even send you like the drum hits from that section.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Because we have a few songs that have them. I just think it's another good tool to change it up and make it sound like you practiced. You know.
Right.
And endings are a huge thing for me, because I'm sure, you know, and like every person who's ever been at a gig knows that awkward moment when like you fall into an ending and it's like, oh, well, we ended kind of together.
Yeah. We
hit the last chord-ish together. So that for me is a big one. And it can be fun and quirky. And I always try to make my arrangements fun. So maybe instead of ending on one, you end on two. Or like...
you mean beat two?
Yeah.
Not like the two chord.
No,
on beat two.
On beat two, or like whatever it is, just doing something that has a statement and makes you feel something. Because that's like what you want it to be like, I felt something. It made you laugh, or it made your heart weep a little bit, or whatever it is. But like that's always my goal with an arrangement, is like to have a sentiment I'm trying to express and have what's happening within the arrangement express that. So more playful songs, I'll try to like make them playful. Like I'm an Old Cowhand, that's a pretty like playful arrangement.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, you know, I have some like other songs where they're just like more heartfelt and kind of make me want to cry. So I try to make the song feel that way. Yeah.
Like what's a ballad that you love to play?
Oh, you know what? And I have a recording of this online that you can link to. It's called "It Hurts to Be Alone." It's a Whaler song. And it's this beautiful tune in 6/8, and just the title alone.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
yeah, I already want to cry.
I know. So every time I play that song, I try to, make, like, I love to announce that title too. I've noticed a lot of songs, you don't necessarily announce at a show. You're just like, maybe the person knew it, maybe they didn't, whatever. But that song, I was like, this song is called "It Hurts to Be Alone," because just that title, I'm like, daggers in your heart.
Wow.
Yeah. So that one there's a link up on my website.
Great. Yeah. What is your website?
MollyMillerMusic.com.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's easy. But yeah, and I thought of like a couple things, just like notes. Oh yeah, steal from other people and being creative, just like making it your own. I think that's a big one. Because how do you do that, right? That's like the eternal question.
Yeah, well, we talk about and think about as a player, how do you find your own voice? But there's also like as an arranger, how do you find a voice? Like when you hear the Oscar Peterson trio, say, for example, it's not just that Oscar Peterson plays like Oscar Peterson, but that band sounds like the OP trio.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is the arrangements.
Yeah, that was someone, I wrote down like a couple people or songs that like stand out, and Oscar Peterson trio, that's like one of them where it's just like, makes you want to, it's just like, it's so groovy, and they're all so tight. It sounds like one thing moving at a time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I'll just say a couple albums, if it's okay, like just that stand out to me. One that I always think of is Harry Nilsson's A Touch of Schmielsen in the Night. It's like, it's standards, but the arrangements are incredible. So that's one that stands out to me. But also when I'm like, because I encourage my students to make their own arrangements. So I have them listen to like that. George Barnes Octet. That's another one. He was just like a studio guitar player and an arranger for, I wish I had looked it up before. I can't remember if it was ABC or NBC, but one of the big studios. And he has an octet that's super quirky, and the arrangements are like, they have like a London Bridges arrangement. That's just like, you kind of feel like you're upside down or something when you're listening to him. They're cool. And Beach Boys, I feel like Pet Sounds, like if you just listen to God Only Knows, or, and this is another Randy Newman song, but I'll Be Home, Harry Nilsson has an awesome version. And there's just the way it starts, because like for me, intros are so important because it sets up the whole thing. It's just like a super simple start to a song. It's just like he's just hitting one chord, but it's done so beautifully that it sets the tone for the whole song. So that's another song I kind of like to show my students. I'm like, not much is happening, but yeah. And there's
not much is happening, but something specific is happening.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the exact thing. Something specific. That's all that matters. It's like choose something, because at a certain point, I think you want every song you write, every arrangement you create to like make everyone's jaw drop and feel things. But like, you just have to choose something at a certain point.
Right.
So it's like, you have to like, so sometimes they're all a work in process. So accepting that maybe you're 80% there, but you still got to perform it to find out if you're 80 or 50% there or 100% there. So I think just choose something. Yeah. As long as you play something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's kind of my process.
That's so helpful. It gives me so much to think about. I want to book a trio gig now, but like think about it in a whole different way.
Yeah, I need to make some new arrangements too, so it was good for me to think about this.
Yeah.
I have a couple in mind.
Well, thank you for being here and for sharing your process with us. And I don't know what else to say. This is Molly Miller. I will provide links if you send me some links, and maybe I'll even make a little. I'll have some links to some of the albums that you mentioned, so people can hear what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
for having me, Adam.